from scratch using this language as the source material. Okay, these are hallmarks of this translation. And he says, this is his project, this is his baby, right? He's been working on it for years, translating the original into English, the nearest English equivalent. And he's put here, 1, restoring the name of El. That's his mission. El is the name of the Father that Joshua or Jesus used on the cross when he declared, El, El, Lamana Shrektani. He has variations because of the dialects, Aramaic dialects. El is the correct translation. El is the article, the, and therefore this leads to error in all the translations that don't translate the name of El correctly. Only the ancient Aramaic scriptures carry the correct name of El. This is the supreme name of the eternal creator of the universe, the uncreated creator. It appears for the first time in Genesis 17:1 as El Shaddai, El the Almighty. If the modern day Hebrew language revivalists do not accept the name of El as being the true name that appears in Genesis 17:1, how can they claim that the Old Testament was originated in Hebrew? Google El Shaddai and you will find that all the websites say El is a pagan god of the Canaanite or Ugaritic religion. So that's what they're speaking, is a form of Canaanite or Ugaritic masqueraded as the Hebrew language. There's a Wikipedia article. In all the Hebrew Old Testaments, book of Genesis, the name is also given as El. All the Bibles of all the languages of the world give the name as El. The name is even misspelled in the Hebrew script. How could such a huge mistake go unnoticed? It is the denial of the ancient Aramaic scriptures, the ancient church of the East, the denial that they are the only authentic scriptures, and that's what we bring to you. Someone might say to us in a comment, so your so-called translation is the, you're saying it's the most authentic? Yep. According to this information here. 2. Identifying the name of Joshua or Jesus in Zechariah chapter 3 verse 1. It will say that the name of Joshua, Jesus, did not appear in the Old Testament. Victor Alexander's translation explains the fact that the name of Joshua or Jesus was removed from the Old Testament scriptures. Not only is the name of Joshua or Jesus in the Old Testament scriptures, it is Joshua that the scriptures prophesy about throughout. And that's what he told those Pharisees and Sadducees. You look for me in the scriptures, etc., etc., and here I am standing right in front of you, and it talks about me from the very beginning up to that point, and to Revelations 22, or end of 21-22. And he suggests to read his translation. We'll provide it for you in video format from his website va.com, which was down. We found a way to revive it, and we bring that to you so you will know the real truth about the scriptures, what was actually written, what was actually said and meant. And you will see that it is so. The name of Joshua is correctly spelled in the Hebrew script, but incorrectly translated as Joshua in all the Western Old Testaments, or Yeshua. There's no Yeshua in Hebrew apparently. Yeshua. 3. Joshua, Jesus spoke of the Trinity or the Triunity in the Gospel of John chapter 5 verse 26. The Pneuma, or the Trinity, Victor N. Alexander's translation identifies the concept in the Gospel of John in the book of Exodus. As we explained, that's what Moses saw. He looked at the flying sun disk shooting out flames. This would be the power of the Holy Spirit probably. In no other translation do you find it. It's only in the ancient Aramaic scriptures that the Trinity or Triunity is revealed to the Elohim, over the flames, the wing disc icon. The Triunity or Trinity is also in Paul's letters, St. Paul's letters to the Hebrews, chapter 1, verse 1 to 3. How could the Greek be the language of origination when the word for Trinity has not been identified in several passages? 4. Joshua or Jesus spoke of the Holy Spirit. He said in the Gospel of John that he would send them the Holy Spirit, and in the book of Acts, Joshua, Jesus baptizes his disciples with the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit descended on Joshua or Jesus when he was baptized by John. This was the first time the New Testament presented the Holy Spirit. It is only through Victor N. Alexander's translation that these concepts are clearly translated and identified. Okay, so you look at all these people and they're going, the Gospels, the New Testament is fake, it's not real, it's all that sort of stuff. Don't believe a word of it because they're not of God. They don't have that Spirit of God. They're just looking at it and saying, well, I think it appears, I think it might mean, right? Okay, when they're not of God. It's men giving their opinion, what they believe, okay, from the Greek, not from the original Aramaic, the recorded Greek. Okay, so it is only in the ancient Aramaic scriptures that the triunity or Trinity is revealed. The Trinity or triunity is also important. Lead us to Hebrews chapter 1 verses 1 to 3. How could the Greek be the language of origination when the word for Trinity has not been identified in several passages? 4. Joshua, or Jesus, spoke of the Holy Spirit. He said in the Gospel of John that he would send them the Holy Spirit. They received the Holy Spirit, right? The Comforter. He'd send, but don't worry, he'd send the Spirit. And it's not Muhammad. He didn't send Muhammad and all this sort of rubbish. Okay, Muhammad's not mentioned in the Aramaic. Right, so don't believe these imams that make those false claims. And in the book of Acts, Joshua, Jesus baptizes his disciples with the Holy Spirit. So he did that for baptism, right? The Holy Spirit descended or came upon Joshua, or Jesus, when he was baptized by John. So he baptized with the Holy Spirit. John baptized with water in the Jordan, etc. This was the first time the New Testament presented the Holy Spirit. It is only through the Alexander's translation that these concepts are clearly translated and identified. 5. In the ancient Aramaic language, the Holy Spirit is feminine in gender. Doesn't mean that it's gender correct or LGBTQ or whatever people want to try and put a slant on it and say that. Okay, not by gender and all this sort of crap. This has profound implications in the interpretation of scriptures quickly. In the ancient Aramaic language, there are two genders, feminine and masculine. There is no neuter. There's no middle, right? No neutral. This is one of the sacred features of the ancient Aramaic language. In Greek, Latin and English, sometimes the Holy Spirit is referred to as it. The Holy Spirit is never referred to as she. These languages are male-oriented, what people say sexist, and misleading in the interpretation of certain doctrines. When the Holy Spirit is mentioned by Joshua or Jesus, he always refers to her as she. This is not just a question of grammar. It is an expression of the Holy Spirit's nurturing quality and his sacred, compassionate nature. Who else can nurture children better than the feminine? Right? We're not saying the effeminate, we're saying the feminine, or that with the motherly qualities, the nurture. A woman, right? A female. Conclusions. In the ancient Aramaic Lishana Atika, if the ancient Aramaic Lishana Atika was not the original language of the scriptures, why did all forms and dialects of Hebrew, Aramaic and Greek, Latin and English, and all the languages of the world misidentifying the name of El? Why did all the Western churches miss the connection between the covenant and Allah, God in English, Allah in Aramaic, God in English? It's not Allah, okay, as we mentioned in other videos. It's not Allah, so don't believe the huff and puff of these Islamic imams. They say, oh, Allah, or Allah is the same in the Aramaic, the same God. No, here's the difference. Here's Allah, the word Allah of the Muslims. It's a monotheistic God. It's pointing to a monotheistic God. This God has no other, no equal, no son of God. Jesus wasn't the son of God. Etc. Etc. He's just another prophet in the line of Muhammad. Okay, so that's a single monotheistic God. Put the A on the end in the Aramaic. It's dual, meaning or representing that triune: God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Okay, made with Abraham in Genesis 17:1. In the words of Joshua or Jesus on the cross in Mark 15:34. In both cases, the name of Allah is El. Okay, so the previous article that covered all the variations of the missed name. This is mission. Alexander to restore the apostolic scriptures for all followers, etc., etc., to provide every reader interested in the authentic translation of the Holy Scriptures an online source for study. And the translation that he, Victor N. Alexander, did, using the English language terminology. Jesus, the Messiah or Christ, and all God said, understand English. What I was talking about. Instead of Maran Joshua, Meshika, and Maria, Allah. everything was translated correctly as far as the teachings of the scriptures are concerned. So there were a lot of revelations regarding the scriptures that had been missed by the English language Bibles. It's not stuff that he realised, oh wow, the Brita, or in the Aramaic, or Genesis in English, says Neanderthal man, or a man, pre-Adamic man, created in the image of God before the Adam and the Eve, created from the soil, the dirt. Okay, there's a difference here. Okay, so it's the first translation that Victor Alexander did using English language terminology. Jesus the Messiah, or Christ the Lord, instead of Mana Yeshua Mashiach, Maria Alaha. Everything was translated correctly as far as the teachings of the scriptures are concerned. So there were a lot of revelations regarding the scriptures that had been missed by the English language Bibles, the Americanized English Bibles, put out by the American Bible Society, etc., similar, based on the Greek and Latin. However, the impression that the majority of the readers of this website, his website, va.com, when it was up, it was down. We revived it, found a way to revive it, and these are the videos that we present you, the information. Had that his translation project was just another version of the Bible, so that's what others, the readers, thought. It's just another version of the Bible. And when many of these people realised that no, Alexander's translation was very different on some key concepts, they ran back to their familiar readings of the Bible, because that's what they were conditioned to do, right? They've been programmed to do. And their Western interpretation of the Bible, the Western terminology used, right? That's when Victor Alexander decided that he could not, in good conscience, let all his readers think that his translation was just another translation. So he began to use the Aramaic terminology, the Eastern terminology, that was preserved in the ancient Aramaic language for 2,000 years and was ignored by the Western churches in favour of their Western terminology. Now that there was a growing effort on the part of American missionaries to spread their false gospels to the far eastern China, they came to Umia in Syria and tried to translate the King James Version into Syriac so those people would understand it and then convert, but there was no grammatical or grammar structure, so they tried to create one and they made a botch of it. Some people switched over from Surai, so U-R-I, to Western Christianity, but these translators, American missionaries, botched the King James Version. They tried to translate into Syriac, and that's what he was first translating from. This 1889 or 1902 translation of the King James Version into Syriac. He's told by the high priest, well, it's actually wrong when it was originally in scribal language, the Lusana Atik Sabre of the Tab Eshrod. He gave him a copy of it, Bible format, and he retranslated using that one. He had to do his best to emphasise the fact that the English language terminology is not itself the problem, it is the interpretation of the scriptures into English, Americanized English, and the false doctrines that emerge out of the Bibles translated from the Greek and Latin. So for this reason, Victor N. Alexander had to retain the original translation, which you'll find we bring you in video format. He says, pay attention, special attention to the differences in the teachings of Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah, or the Christ, that are contained even in those first translations that he posted on the internet starting 17 or more years ago, and that's dated June 5th, 2014. So what is it now, 2023? So it's basically 20 or so years ago. Okay, and there's the Disciples New Testament. And it covers the Old Testament as well. Aramaic Bible Translated Notes 2013 to 14. And here's the history of the Assyrian Ancient Church of the East, Apostolic Church of the East, when they were persecuted for many centuries, martyred, murdered, pushed out of their land, run to the hills before their texts, etc. They survived God because they're the chosen of God. Okay? His word is preserved through them. And that's why they're getting a lot of crap from everybody else. Right? Everybody else wants to push theirs as the true scriptures, etc., etc., revealed through Muhammad or through an angel Gabriel or whatever. Some modern day guru that claims, oh, God said this, God said that to me. He didn't. And there's a difference. In the Greek logos, the word milta is translated as logos in the Greek original. What does logos mean in Greek? The term was used as far back as the 6th century BC. Aristotle wrote about it. Subsequent philosophers wrote about it. The Catholics, Jerome and Augustine, wrote about it and made it into the holy word describing Jesus in the Western tradition of Christianity. These are all Roman Catholics. Okay? So they've changed it, okay, from the Aramaic into the Greek. They claimed it to be logos, or the word, which is incorrect. However, milta is the original word that the writers of the scriptures used to describe Yahshua Mashiach, Jesus the Messiah. Milta is more than a word, it is more than a philosophical concept describing Jesus as the spokesman for God. He's the voice of peace, right? Yahshua is more than a spokesman in the Gospel of John. Yahshua, or Jesus, is a manifestation that which was hidden and revealed, God in the flesh, right? God incarnate, of the Creator, the uncreated Creator. Yahshua, Jesus, manifests the Father in every way. He is a physical manifestation. He's the revealing of the Father whom we would have never known fully if Yahshua Jesus had not come to the world, because he was separated by sin, so there was no parley with God. God didn't know those people who sinned, that lived in darkness. Right? Sin separated them. There's a big gulf apparently. Right? No one can cross over, so Christ became that bridge, the way back to the Father. As he said, I am the way, the truth and the life. And that's what he meant. He's the way back. Okay? He's the way you should live. He's the living God, and so forth. You said